And welcome back to Subculture on centralcoastradio.com. Well, there is a very, very big theatre production in Melbourne at the moment. Many people say that Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman is the greatest theatre production ever written. As a fan of Shakespeare, I doubt that a little bit because I am a Shakespeare fan. But look, it is an amazing production. And of course, Death of a Salesman has arrived in Melbourne right now with, of course, the great Anthony LaPaglia in the lead role as well. The production is also directed by Neil Armfield, who, of course, many people will know for making movies like Holding the Man over the years. And Kyle and I headed along on opening night to check out this amazing production, which also features the likes of Alison White, Richard Piper, Steve Pistone. There are some amazing names there. So let's just jump into it. Kyle, what did you think of Death of a Salesman? Because you're like me, you'd never seen it performed on stage before.
Yeah, like I've never actually watched any kind of performance or even the movies. There's the Dustin Hoffman, John Malkovich movie. Yeah, I'd never even seen that either. So I kind of I feel somebody kind of spoiled the ending for me at one point, but beyond that, I had no idea what to expect going in. I just knew that it's seen as being one of the great, if not the greatest play ever, one of at least one of the greatest American ones. Especially over like the last 75 years. Pulitzer Prize winning. It's just a ridiculously popular one that's had so many different revivals, and I think a part of that is even though it is an examination of the American dream, it's a hit with audiences worldwide because the themes that it tackles about feeling of feelings of worthlessness and um, living with like one foot stuck in the past, all that kind of stuff, and the relationship between father and son. Those are things that transcend generations and uh, barriers, like language barriers. So there's been Chinese versions of this show, and yeah, it's such a widely accessible piece. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. This is Anthony LaPaglia's well, not he's a Tony Award winning actor, so he has been on the stage before, but I believe this is his first Australian
Yeah.
stage performance, at least main stage. And yeah, he was just amazing in it. Yeah, just seeing somebody like that caliber of an actor. I believe he actually won a Tony Award for um, another play by Arthur Miller.
Yeah.
So it's kind of he's aged up now, 20 years later, and now he's able to play the character of Willie Loman. So it was a really amazing play, amazing performances. And yeah, it's well, we got more to say about it, but how about you, David? What did you think of it?
Yeah, look, this absolutely blew me away. It's weird because I'd actually read this when I was in uni,
Oh,
because I'd read the play, but I'd never actually seen it, acted out before. It was one of those plays that when we were studying, how to write for theater, it was like,
hmm.
you've got to read this. And I think that's where my first kind of thing came in about the whole thing with, Miller versus Shakespeare, because I was very much a Shakespeare fan, all the way through high school. I had a literature teacher who basically almost had a philosophy that nothing great had been written in the last 100 years, that we had to go past that to find brilliantly written stuff. So we were studying the works of people like August Strindberg and Shakespeare. So then when I got to uni, people started to introduce me to stuff like from David Williamson and Arthur Miller. And for a little while, I was reluctant to read it. I was like, I don't want to read these people. Like they're the modern day bad guys. But look, I liked this play when I read it, and it's one of those productions where I've seen it around being advertised by amateur
Mhm.
theater groups over the years, and I've been like, I don't really want to see a classic being done by an amateur theater group. Like I know that sounds so elitist, but it's like if I want to go and see this play, I want to see it done by the best. It's
Yeah.
like I guess the only way I can talk about that is I had seen Shakespearean plays my entire life put on by amateur theatre companies. And then one day I got the opportunity to go and see the Royal Shakespeare Company do A Midsummer's Night's Dream. And it was like that ruined all other Shakespeare productions for me. People might remember here in Melbourne, they came out for a season and they were doing they rebuilt Shakespeare's original theatre in the Botanical Gardens here in Melbourne and put on plays. I went every night and saw every play that they did, and it just ruined other productions. And I was like that with Death of a Salesman. I'm like, I want to see this done, but I want to see it done right.
Mm.
And I think I did see that with this because Anthony LaPaglia, as you said, was brilliant, but he's also got some amazing supports.
Oh yeah.
Alison White, who I grew up watching on television, in stuff like Good Guys, Bad Guys, Frontline. She's in it and does an amazing job as well. But even the younger actors, like Josh Hellman plays Biff Loman, and
Mm.
for people that don't know much about him, he was in the miniseries The Pacific, but he's also in the new Mad Max film, where he's starring opposite Chris Hemsworth.
I hate to say he was also one of my favorite characters in Fury Road. He was
Yeah,
Nux's like friend that was always trying to one up him.
yeah,
And yeah, it's just when I saw him when I realized that was him on stage, I was like, oh, it's one of my favorite guys from Fury Road.
yeah. And then like Sean Keenan as well, is someone that I've watched a lot of over the years. He
Mm.
was in Lockie Leonard, which I loved. He was also in Puberty Blues, which was a show that I loved as well. So you're bringing together all these amazing people. And I should say that some of these people are so into character with costuming and makeup and stuff like that that I actually know Steve Bastoni and have met him a few times and
Yeah.
didn't realize that he was on the stage in front of me until I looked at the program and went, "Oh, Charlie's being played by Steve Bastoni." But it that just goes to show like just how amazing this production was. Like even with Anthony LaPaglia, I think he might be the major draw card for this production, but I forgot that I was watching Anthony LaPaglia very, very quickly. I was watching Willie Loman.
Mm.
That was how much he encompassed that character. So, did you find the same thing that these actors just became the characters that they were playing so well?
Definitely. Anthony Apollo, just he feels so right in the part. It's like it feels like just the part he was born to play.
Yeah,
Um, he's the perfect age for the character, and something that I thought I was really grateful to see, even though I guess it's sacrilege as a fan of Australian movies and Australian theater, is that they all the actors they were playing American.
yeah,
They didn't try to I mean at the same theater just a few weeks earlier really we saw 222 and that was good because they had localized the story and um basically it's a British play, but they turned it into an Australian one with some local references and stuff like that. But this one, I was a little worried that they might have tried to localize it, tried to turn it into an Australian thing, try to even modernize it a bit. I know that there have been a few revivals of it in America where they've tried to take like different approaches with it, and it does feel a bit I don't know, it does feel a bit off for you have this great play and why do you need to mess with it? But they didn't do that here. Everyone was just so amazing. It's like watching these characters from a forgotten time and but being able to see them like see so much of yourself in them
yeah,
and the problems that we go through. It's basically the same things almost 100 years later, and it's the same struggles that the working man is going through. And yeah, all of the characters. Alison White had some amazing moments in the movie, in the movie in the in the play. Sorry, and yeah, she was uh for her to be playing this character that it can sometimes be hard to watch her because like she does get kind of really talked down to by Willie throughout the play.
Yep.
But the character of Linda, she's just so supportive and so loving and of her husband that it really is touching. And that's kind of what's fueling her through the entire play. And Alison White was just amazing in it.
Yeah.
I think that and sadly Sean Keenan, who plays the younger brother Happy, he's overshadowed a lot by the character Biff, played by Josh Hellman. I didn't even know that Willie had two sons in the play. Like that's kind of it's kind of the thing that his character it is kind of this sad thing that this character is just kind of in the background, kind of pushed to the side, and like some of his parts are even more comical in like his attempts to keep the pace in the household.
Yep.
But yeah, it's really all the main characters. I just see Steve Bastoni was I just love basically he's like the polar opposite of Willie, but he is so many of like the best just one-liners from the play, not as far as witty or anything goes, but just how uh how simple what he's saying is, but how if Willie could just see things from that guy's perspective, he wouldn't be as stressed out as he is. He wouldn't be having the mental health issues that he's having. It was really really amazing stuff.
What did you make also of the set as well? Because the set was
Hmm.
really interesting. The set was very different to what I was expecting. It's for the listeners out there, the set is pretty much the house, restaurant, etc. all happens at the front of the stage, and then behind the
Hmm.
stage, behind that is actually the bleachers of the football field where
Yeah,
Biff
Ebbets
had,
Field. Yeah.
yeah, where Biff has had his glories and had his disappointment. So what did you make of that? Because that almost feels like a little bit of a weird decision, but it works.
Yeah, because that's something again because I've never seen a stage play version of this. I looked into it, and it seems like most the traditional ways of setting up the stage is just the Loman household, and maybe even a bit of abstractness here and there. But this play, the set design was done by Dale Ferguson, and it's minimalist, but yet it's abstract. Yeah, as you say, it's just the bleachers of Ebbets Field, and the entire cast are on stage, usually all at once. Half the time, just the characters don't even appear until the show's second act, well, 2 hours well into the play. They're just sitting there watching what's happening. And I really like that because it kind of played up on the idea of this is like Willie's fractured mind, that all these voices from the past, because so much of the play is made up of Willie having these flashbacks and remembering the good times or remembering conversations with his brother or whatever. And it's like all these specters of the past of Willie's life are all just sitting there watching him.
Yep.
And I thought it was a really interesting way of doing the show. I wouldn't have expected that to be how they would set up the stage, but I thought that it worked really well. What did you think that it did?
Yeah, I was the same. I thought it was a pretty brave decision because it could be one of those things where reviewers and audience members are thinking, "What on earth were you thinking?" But it does. It works really, really well. Like I did feel sorry for some of the actors and actresses though, because like some of them seem to be sitting there for a long time before they um
They seem
actually,
like uncomfortable seats. Yeah.
yeah, like poor Manali Datar, she was sitting there. I don't think she actually had a line in the first act of the production. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong, but I think she was sitting down for the entire first act of the production. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Nick,
I
same
was
So yeah, same thing for the character played the waiter in the second act. Like
Yeah.
he's just sitting there the entire time. It's like it's not till like the last half hour of the play that he actually moves.
Yeah, but I was thinking, what a great time for a young actor or young actress being able to sit there and watch somebody with the skills of Anthony LaPaglia and Alison
Mm,
White doing that. Like you
mm,
wouldn't get bored every night. Like it's like Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I remember doing an interview with one of the actors in that, and he said that when they were doing the one that used to go for the two parts, like the two, it was almost 2 3 hour parts. He said there
mm.
were times when he was in a scene and then he wouldn't have to be back on stage for 4 hours. So he would actually, like, he rented an apartment in the city, and while the production was still on, he'd go back to his apartment and come back like 2 hours later. Like
Jeez.
it like just because that they could do that. Like for people that don't know, when Harry Potter and the Cursed Child first started in Melbourne, there was 6 hours of stage time, but there was like I think it was a 2 hour break in the middle. So
Yeah.
there were times when some actors wouldn't have to be on stage for like 4 hours. So yeah, it was like go home and then come back like 2 hours later. But
Yeah.
yeah, so like in that, it's the same with this. Like a lot of some people get to sit there for a long time, but yeah, there's no way that you would get bored watching this every night. And I think that one of the things that I really credit this cast for, especially Anthony LaPaglia, is because this goes for nearly 3 hours as well.
Yeah.
Is just remembering those lines. I still can't work out how actors can remember 3 hours worth of lines. Like it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's like it's a 3 hour show. Anthony LaPaglia is on stage for vast majority of it.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's there's no it's one of those ones you can't run backstage and just have a quick look at your at your script. It's
yeah.
like no, he's pretty much on stage the entire time. Yeah, it's just it really is all the pretty much what you were saying, that you're worried that this you're worried about seeing this play not produced by top of the line company with top of the line actors. And yeah, that's exactly what this is. It's actors that know exactly what they're doing, and yeah, just turn in a brilliant performances.
Definitely. Well, I'm going to wrap up by saying this is a production that everybody out there should go and see. If you love theatre, you are going to love this amazing production of Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller that is on in Melbourne right now. What would you like to say to wrap up, mate?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It's I'm really overjoyed that my first experience with this play was such a positive one, and yeah, I highly recommend it for lovers of theater. And yeah, just Neil Armfield has done an amazing job as director of this play. It's really great.
Definitely. So for everybody out there, Death of a Salesman is on right now in Melbourne at Her Majesty's Theatre. You are listening to Subculture on centralcoastradio.com, and we'll be back in just a moment.